Welcome to Remember the Great Sports. One of the topics that commonly comes up amongst autograph collectors is what color Sharpie they want to get their autograph in. Now, not all people use Sharpies. Some people use other types of pens such as paint pens or even staplers. But this video is going to focus on blue and black Sharpies. I decided to start this type of video to help those type of collectors that are maybe just starting out in the type of autograph collecting, whether that's through the mail or in person, and kind of give them autograph advice, give them some tips, maybe create some discussion amongst other YouTubers on different aspects of autograph collecting. What we do as autograph collectors to prepare our cards, prepare our items, or whether that's through the mail, something that you might mail to somebody, or whether that's something you might try to get signed in person, with you by yourself or you with 1,000 other people trying to get autographs. So the first episode, I guess, is to discuss the sometimes controversial issue of blue versus black Sharpies. Now, which is better? That's the question. That's why you're watching this video. Is there a difference? Well, to answer the question, I'm going to try to answer this like a politician. There really is not a better method. It really comes down to preference. Now, with that being said, I'm going to show you some examples of a few autographs that I have obtained. These are autographs that I did not personally get signed, but they're autographs that I've obtained by purchases or trades throughout the years that I had no control over, meaning the pen that was used I didn't choose. Now, with that being said, some people have their preferences, especially when it comes to getting cards signed. They like to get it all in one certain color, whether that's blue, black, pink, red, whatever. I've seen some collectors that prefer to get their card signed in the color of the team that the player is represented on. For example, the Cardinals would be red. The Raiders would be black, obviously. The Texas Rangers would be blue or red, take your pick. So there is controversy with that. Not really controversy, I guess you would say, but there are preferences, to some certain collectors. There is, unfortunately, how do I put this, a idea or conclusion by some that sign autographs that people that are using blue Sharpies are only in collecting for financial gain. Now, that's not necessarily true, and that's why I am sharing this video with some people, is because I'm going to show you some examples of some autographs in my collection that are signed in black Sharpie that over time have created a yellow halo tinge to them around the autograph. Now, again, I didn't get these signed myself, so I didn't have control over what pen was used. But some of these items are vintage from the 1980s and early 90s, and perhaps that's the reason why, they have created this yellow halo to them, is because maybe Sharpies were created differently in the early years as opposed to nowadays. Now, I will get to that in a second, but a few other things about Sharpies that I want to point out. Black Sharpies typically are cheaper. Okay, they're easier, they're more obtainable. Typically, if you go to your stadiums, events, if you go into the gift shop, that's what they're selling you. I've even seen specific Sharpies to teams, meaning you go to a game in Kansas City and you might see a Kansas City Royals Sharpie in black, of all things. Or I've seen like Major League Baseball Sharpies, you know, Sharpies that were specifically made just for Major League Baseball with their logo on them. Now what I do is I buy in bulk. I buy blue Sharpies in bulk, and I use blue Sharpies for autographs. Very rarely do I use a black Sharpie, and when I get to my examples you'll see why. Now blue Sharpies can run anywhere from $1 to almost $2 each as compared to their counterparts that are black. So if you're on a budget and you really don't care about your autographs, a black Sharpie is definitely the one that you want to go with, because you can buy them at bulk, usually for about $6 per 12 in a box like this. Now with blue Sharpies, those cost a little bit more. You're probably looking at on average about $1.80 to $1 per box. So you can get a box for about $10, give or take. If you find the right sale, you know, at an Office Max, Staples, whatever, you might get like a buy one get one half off, which obviously knocks down the price, and that's usually when I buy in bulk. I have run into situations where they've had to order them for me only because they don't have them in stock usually, so that really stinks. Now, most of the big retailers like the Staples, Office Max, etc., they have Sharpie racks, which you can buy them individually, but I don't advise that because they usually cost more than $1 if you go that route. So it's cheaper to try to find them in a box form, at least in my opinion. Again, if you're on a budget, the black Sharpie is the way to go. But after I show you some of the things that I'm about to show you, you may want to second guess what type of pen you want to use and pay a little bit more for that blue Sharpie. I'm planning on doing another video, and again this is for newer collectors, talking about how long you should use a Sharpie. Somebody that's been collecting like myself for over 20 years, you know the signs of when you need to get rid of your Sharpie. In other words, you can't expect to buy a Sharpie in 2018 and 3 to 4 years down the road now go autographing again and that Sharpie to be looking good, especially depending on how much you use the Sharpie. The tip is going to get a little more, you know, worn, but that's a video for another day. I personally collect autographs in blue Sharpie. Now, with that being said, 90% of what I autograph is usually in person at minor league baseball stadiums. I have yet to run into somebody that hasn't had an issue with using my pen when I ask them to sign my cards or, you know, yearbook or whatever. However, had individual collectors that have started autographing, you know, some of the lower level guys at rookie ball or even A ball, that have been told by some of the young draft picks, you know, that are 18, 19, 20 years old, that they won't sign anything but black Sharpie because they must be dealers if they're asking for blue. Well, this is my response to that. If you as a collector in person run into somebody and they refuse you to sign an autograph because of the pen color that you're using, I would point them in the direction of this video, because I'm going to show them examples of autographs that were obtained over 30 years ago that have now basically deteriorated, would be the best way to put it. And obviously if you're taking the time to ask somebody for their autograph, you don't want your autograph to deteriorate. You want to use it in permanent marker forever. Now, with that said, if Michael Jordan grabbed a black Sharpie and was signing everybody's stuff, I would be more than happy to take a Michael Jordan autograph in a black Sharpie. You have to pick and choose your battles with who you're asking to switch Sharpies with. But I'm sure many of you have seen on YouTube, there are videos of celebrities that specifically have called out collectors, you know, at whatever event they're at, whatever venue they're at, saying, I'm not signing because you're a dealer because you have a blue Sharpie. Now, I hope to debunk that myth that anybody that uses a blue Sharpie is, a dealer, so to speak. I've been rambling for about 10 minutes, so I'm going to get right down to it, and I'm going to show you some examples out of my personal collection of the yellow haloing that occurs on autographs using a black Sharpie over time. One more thing that I will point out is I'm not talking about the yellowing on baseballs. That is a whole nother subject for another day, basically. I could go on for a long time about signed baseballs, but I will post a picture of a signed yellow baseball, not a signed baseball, but a yellowing baseball, which is a natural occurrence because of the baseball and the materials that it was made out of. I'm specifically talking about something that is signed in black Sharpie that has created a yellow tinge to it. Now I'm going to show you these photos as I go along. I apologize if the camera gets a little blurry, but I am going to take still shots of these items as well so that you can see for yourself. I'll try to zoom in the best that I can on the yellow haze that I'm talking about, because sometimes a camera doesn't pick up what the naked eye sees. So let me move these Sharpies out of the way. And the first example I wanted to show you was a 1987 Phillies surf book, which is vintage, I'm that old. But I go right to the page of Mr. Paul Owens, and oh my gosh, that's blurry. But I'm sorry about that blurriness there, but I'm not going to zoom in on this, but I will put a still shot of that for you to review. But over time, this signature has turned yellow, and it's kind of hard to see with this focus on. But again, I will put a still shot up there to show you what I'm talking about. Now, one might look at this and say, well, that's not that bad. I agree. It's not horrible, but wouldn't you rather it not turn yellow? I mean, that's just my comment there. And you simply can not have it turn yellow by having somebody sign it in blue. Now, I was lucky enough to be at an event a few years ago where Mr. Ferguson Jenkins was in attendance, and he was very happy to actually see this item. He actually commented on it, and he signed in blue Sharpie right there. And again, this was only 2 years ago when I got this signed. His comment was, man, I never have anybody ask me to sign Philly stuff. It's always Cubs and Rangers stuff. So he was more than happy to take a look through this book, and he actually sat and looked through this and talked about his old teammates and some of the people that he enjoyed playing with on the Phillies. So that's my first example. Now my second example, and this one might be a little harder to see, but again, I have a still shot of it, is a program from the St. Louis Cardinals from 1990 yearbook, and there's a page in here signed by some Cardinal players at the time and their manager, Joe Torre. Well, it's hard to see again, but if you zoom in on Gerald Perry, for example, here, I'm trying my best here. Let it zoom in. It's kind of hard to see, but again, you can kind of see it on the Al Raboski a little bit better, I guess, in this light, but I will put a still shot of this image up on there. And this again is an example of cards yellowing, or an item yellowing, not cards, yellowing over time. And unfortunately, this happens. I've got one more example here. It's not a trading card, but it's back in the 80s when you typically wrote somebody for an autograph. They would reply in the mail and ask you to, instead of signing your card, they might include a free team issued card or something. But I have this Manny Trio autograph card here. And again, if you look closely, again, I apologize about the blurriness as it zooms in. It's kind of hard to see. But I will take a still shot of this photo and post it up there for you guys. But the bottom line is, over time, this autograph has got a yellow tinge to it. Now, I don't mind so much if the yellow tinge is there, if it's my own doing. That's my fault. But somebody innocently, didn't know that was the case. Now, I go back to, maybe Sharpies are better now. I don't know. I can't speak for what is put in a Sharpie, what materials they use to create Sharpies or anything like that. Maybe somebody viewing this can comment on that. Maybe in 1990, Black Sharpies were made differently than they are today with 2018 Sharpies. But I don't get things signed in Black Sharpie for this reason. I have had these items in my collection for years. I picked these up, 5, 6, 7, 10 years ago. I want to say the Manny Trio I've had probably for 15 years, that I bought at an auction way back when. And this is not eBay, but I'm saying an actual auction. They don't have too many of those around anymore with sports cards and memorabilia. I didn't pay anything for the Manny Trio. It was more or less thrown into the lot, so to speak. So when I approach somebody for an autograph, I give them the blue Sharpie. I've never had somebody say, I'm not signing for you because you have a blue Sharpie. Now, there are circumstances when teams, are having kids events or they're at paid signings that they sit down at a table and guess what? They have a black Sharpie. I will go out of my way to ask the individual to switch pens, and most of the time they do. I've never had, them deny me that. So I've given up a few Sharpies, as a matter of fact, doing that very thing. I would rather donate a Sharpie to whatever athlete, is willing to do that, to sign for me and, to get it in blue so it stays in my collection forever. Now, again, I can't speak for people. This is just my personal views on things. I wanted to create this video along with some of the other autograph and discussion videos to help out some of those that are maybe just starting getting out in the hobby. If you have items in your collection that aren't on baseballs, because like I said, baseballs are, to me, a trap. Just because you get something signed today doesn't mean in a year, 5 years, 10 years down the line, the autograph's even going to be legible anymore on the baseball, only because it's faded or it's bled or whatever. So I'm not really looking for examples of people that have had baseballs that have been, lost over time. I could do a whole video on that and probably show you 30 baseballs that I've had in my collection that have just bit the dust. So please comment below. I look forward to seeing maybe some video responses to the black versus blue. I'm not saying either is better. I'm not saying either is, bad. I'm just saying what my preferences are, and why. Some people may not care. It's just like when somebody wants to personalize an item to somebody. If you're willing to stop and sign my item and you want to put my name on that, that's fine with me. I'd rather you stop and take the time to do that than just be kind of a jerk and not sign for me at all. That at least is my opinion. Now, other people may have differing opinions on that. I'm not condoning anyone that, wants to sell collection, by all means. If that's what you want to do, that's what you want to do. If that's what, you know, your purpose in this hobby is, then that's what it is. It is what it is. I just want to share with you my opinions of things. I hope this has been informative. I hope this is something that others, you know, can really grasp onto. I know this is a 20-minute video, but I hope this information is somewhat helpful to some of those that are just starting getting out into autographing. In closing, I just want to say thank you for taking the time to listen to my video and my talking about this. I look forward to maybe sharing some more autograph tips and discussions with some collectors. I want to promote this hobby, you know, especially to the younger generation. I want them to, you know, try to learn, you know, some of the ropes, so to speak, so they don't make the mistakes that I've made in the past. With over 20 years of experience doing this, there are many things that I look at my collection that I'm like, man, why did I do that? Why did I use this pen? Why didn't I powder that card or prep that card, whatever you want to call it? Why did I use a dying Sharpie to get that card signed? You know, these are all things that, you know, you have to point out, you know, and you learn over time. Luckily, like I said, most of my autographs were with minor leaguers, so I'm not losing a whole lot. It's not like I handed Michael Jordan a dead Sharpie and walked away. I wish that I saw Michael Jordan and had that opportunity, but I would take Michael Jordan in a dead Sharpie than not take Michael Jordan at all, is the way I look at it. So thanks for watching, and look forward to more autograph tips and discussion videos. I look forward to sharing them with you.